How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, breaking down the latest in Mets land. And as I promised each and every one of you who've been following the channel heading into this offseason, I did note that when it comes to the Mets and their current pursuit of Juan Soto, that we're going to cover everything to an absolute T up until he makes his inevitable decision this offseason. As you guys can see beside me, over the past hour or so, per the New York Post, Steve Cohen is flying to Cali next week to talk to Soto, Boris, and his entire camp. So let me see your initial reactions in the comments down below, everybody. I would love to hear them. We're going to deep dive everything that there is to know about Soto a little bit more for some people that have been living under a rock, which again is hard to fathom, but I know some of you guys aren't in the loop when it comes to Soto as much as others are. We're also going to get into how the Mets basically go head-to-head with the Dodgers, with the Yankees, and other top clubs contending and looking to land the services of arguably the best player in Major League Baseball, or certainly one of them at least in Juan Soto. That and plenty more is what we're about to get into, everybody. So let me see your initial reactions. Smash a like and subscribe on as you first chime in. Thank you so much for doing exactly that, and also thank you guys in advance for hearing from our amazing sponsor, as always, at BetUS, that has you covered with all your sports betting needs. Head over to betus.com.pa today by using Wardy's promo code YouTube150. That way you too get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, $125 on your second and your third, up to $2,000 for all your sports betting needs. And as I discussed yesterday, and I'll say it again, I'm doing a two-leg parlay with my NHL picks, my New York Rangers, and as some of you Mets fans out there, your Devils. I have you guys both out right there on the money line for the Devils to win out right there in their game, and for the Rangers to win outright. And that's going to be a $20 parlay that's going to basically double up and win you another $20. So hopefully a $40 turnout should both these teams win outright. Good luck to everyone that places these respective bets. Please know that I'm not a sports betting expert. I'm just a diehard sports fan that loves to place daily bets with our amazing sponsor here at BetUS. Now, as we hop back into this one, everybody, let's talk about this report and let's deep dive this one, because as this came out here from Mike Puma and John Heyman, everyone there at the New York Post, they did state the following: the Mets' full court press on Juan Soto is about to begin. You know, we see that there are other owners that are expected to meet, obviously Boris and Soto, in the coming weeks. It's unclear if it includes Hal Steinbrenner. Yankees GM Brian Cashman recently said it's possible Soto's familiarity with the organization from last season might preclude a meeting. However, they are fully willing to meet Soto as much as he wants to, say, meet the Yankees this offseason. We all know Steve Cohen is firmly willing to get heavily involved in negotiation, just like he did last offseason for one Yoshinobu Yamamoto. The Mets bested the Yankees between the two in their potential pursuit. They had a higher and better offer on the table, but Yamamoto took that and matched that with the Dodgers, where he always wanted to be there, especially pairing with Shohei Ohtani, and they won the dance all in year one. So you can't say he was wrong for making that decision, right? But when we look at the Yankees and we look at the Dodgers, two teams that will be pushing hard for Soto, one thing that they don't have is the dollars that Cohen has. And what Cohen has and what the Mets now have that they're building under David Stearns is a structure to be a consistent contender for years on end. Headline with guys like Francisco Lindor, our captain, helping lead the way in that regard. So I definitely want to know how everyone's feeling about this, because Juan Soto, I think it goes without saying that this man is simply a human highlight reel. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, as I mentioned, let me enlighten you, and that's the raw numbers. Those are Willy that we discussed yesterday. I'm going to talk about him a little bit shortly here in a second. But Juan Soto, when you have 41 home runs, over 100 RBIs, a 288, 419, 569 clip for 8 WAR. Again, he himself accounted for 8 wins last season for the Yankees. 180 WRC plus, which means he's 80% better than the average batter in baseball. I mean, that's really, really good, right? Juan Soto is in the prime of his career. He's going to dominate for the next decade of 15 years there as one of the best, if not the best slugger overall in Major League Baseball, and he is one that's been long connected to the Mets during his early years there with the Washington Nationals. A great friendship and rapport that he's built with Francisco Lindor over the years, that we know they're always not only cordial but very funny and very happy when they're with each other. And we just know that Juan Soto's always appreciated Citi Field. He said that's been one of his favorite ballparks, not the active ballpark that he plays in for, say, whether it's the Padres, the Nationals, or the Yankees. But Soto is a guy that's been long connected to the Mets, and Steve Cohen has been long connected to Juan Soto since he became owner. He has been heavily involved and interested in the prospect of landing Juan Soto. And something that we know very well when it comes to Steve Cohen and his pursuit here is that when he gets involved, it's never for a lack of effort. So when it comes to how much dollars are the Mets willing to spend here on Juan Soto, well, I think it goes without saying that the Mets are not only willing to reach the $600 million mark, but now we're talking north of $700 million. Yes, we are getting to the point of talking about Shohei Ohtani money. And while that's a crazy thing to fathom for a guy that is at best an average defender, at absolute best, and you're really looking for the bat, knowing how much of a surefire guaranteed thing that Juan Soto is as one of the best prolific players every single day when we look on the offensive end for postseason play, for regular season play, high leverage moments that you look for where you need a man to step up. There are a few in the game that are going to do it better than Juan Soto. And that's exactly why the Mets, after being 2 games shy of a World Series berth to face Juan Soto and the Yankees this year, are destined for greatness for 2025 and beyond as they continue to retool their roster for 2025. And just the thought of Juan Soto and Lindor in this lineup together, regardless on the status of Polar Bear Pete Alonso, is an amazing thing. So Mets fans, again, it goes without saying we would love and are dying to see Juan Soto land with the Mets. And while the Dodgers, again, are going to have a heavy pursuit, they don't have the active income to really match the Mets here. The Mets are not going to be relying on deferments in order to get the job done. They could throw $700 million at Juan Soto with Steve Cohen not deferring a single thing without a problem. Now, granted, we know the Dodgers are a very desirable ball club after winning the World Series. And if you're Juan Soto, if you're not prioritizing solely the bag, I can see the appeal there. But knowing that the Dodgers are not going to be able to pony up the most dollars, knowing the Yankees are not going to be able to pony up the most dollars, they're not going to do it. Any Yankee fan that thinks that Steve Cohen is going to be outbid for Juan Soto, unless we get clear indication that Juan Soto will go to the Yankees on maybe around the same price point that Cohen offers or a little bit less, there just isn't a role where that's going to happen at this point in time, barring any changes that we'll discuss when it's worthy to have that discussion. This has been a long pursuit where the Mets were north of $200 million coming off the books already this offseason. And after really cruising last offseason, because after losing out on Yamamoto, they knew no one else was going to fit both the short and long-term build for them, so that's why they didn't overspend. The same way that the Dodgers 2 off-seasons ago let Trey Turner walk because they knew that they were going to be heavily pursuing Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto the year after. This is now time for Steve Cohen and the Mets to officially pounce here, hopefully like never before that we've seen in our lifetimes the first couple years with Steve Cohen as owner. You think Steve spent a lot with the Mets thus far? Just wait until we find out the results of these Juan Soto sweepstakes. So yes, I think we would all love Juan Soto in a Mets uniform. Some don't love the idea for various reasons, whether it's the dollars or whether it's the fact that they think he's more of a standalone DH. When that isn't going to happen, you're not going to invest this amount of money in a guy for him to be a standalone DH. He is going to play the field. Even if there's going to be hiccups, the offense is always going to prevail between the two there. The 99th and 100 percentiles in all the respective categories that you see beside me aren't enough to tell you exactly that, then I don't know what is. And speaking of the Mets here and speaking of these reports, let's also take a brief look at what we see here from Mike Rodriguez, because I will preface, I'm not doing an individual video on these reports because I don't know how truthful Mike Rodriguez is when it comes to his sourcing. He's a little bit more of a question mark, but according to various sources we have been researching, Alexandra Cohen, wife of Steve Cohen, is extremely excited and hopeful about the possibility of having the best left-hand hitter in all of MLB. The arrival of Juan Soto to the Mets feels like a dream that is becoming increasingly attainable. Additionally, it has been mentioned that she would support the idea of Soto taking on the role of team captain. Now, that's where he lost me. I think that goes without saying. And funny enough, the other report that I'm going to explain here has to do with Willy Adames, so we'll get into that in a second. But I was believing Rodriguez to an extent until they brought up team captain. Lindor is the unsung team captain. This team, that goes without saying. So I'll let you guys let me know in the comments down below. Do you think that's a truthful report, or do you think that's nonsensical reporting of a guy that's really just hearing things throughout the industry when there really isn't anything substantial there? I think it's more the latter, as I mentioned, but I definitely want to know how you guys feel. Similar to how I feel about this. According to my sources, the Mets have made an offer of over $160 million for a period of 7 years to Willy Adames. Their intention is for him to play third base. However, Adames is not convinced, as he prefers to continue in the shortstop position. He has not made a decision at this point in time, and there's a potential belief that he could have more interest in potentially going to the likes of the Dodgers. You know, he has, so far, he also has a proposal there from LA. Now, the Dodgers, the Braves, to an extent, they might be a better fit so he can play his true position there at shortstop. But for the Mets, as we discussed in our video yesterday, Willy Adames potentially playing third base for the Mets, shifting Mark Vientos to first base and or DH, depending on the future of one Polar Bear Pete Alonso this offseason. I'm all aboard Willy Adames, but not on a long-term deal. Even at $160 million, where that's a low AAV, Adames is a guy that I would prefer more on the shorter-term end, higher AAV, where he has a chance to win. As he noted himself, he is willing to change positions for a chance to win. When it comes to long-term deals, though, I imagine that he's going to be a bit more stubborn and not as willing to take a shorter-term contract. So Adames, while I'm not opposed to him coming to Queens, I understand that there are multiple obstacles as to why that isn't a great reality to happen. It's a possibility. It's definitely possible, as we discussed yesterday, but it's not a certainty at this point in time. But do you guys think the Mets actually offered a 7-year deal, $160 million to Willy Adames? Again, the fact that we haven't heard this from anyone else leaves me to believe that this isn't entirely true, but I want to relay it here, especially if further reporting comes out that that is accurate, and we can defer to Mike Rodriguez for basically saying that he was the first to know about it. So that is what I'm going to leave you with, everybody. We're going to continue to cover the Mets and everything that happens with them to a T this offseason. But until we find out more key reports and more news, and we have a lot that we're going to talk about over the coming days, so don't you worry. We'll be here to talk about all that, folks. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe on your way out. Let me know your further thoughts in the comments down below. And thank you guys all so much for supporting the channel as you have been doing all in season, off season long. You guys are the absolute best. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out. Talk to you guys again real soon.